Do I get to say action?
Yeah.
Action. Why do you take selfies?
I'm going to be completely honest, I've never taken a selfie.
Never?
Never once. Except for the funny Snapchat filters that make you look like really silly.
I think just like one image alone, it tells a lot about your personality.
I take selfies because it's a way of looking back. You can really reflect on what you've done just by looking within these pictures.
For other people, it may be validation.
I don't take many photos of myself. It's not because I don't like how I look, but I think, I don't know, people that take too many photos of themselves, I don't know, maybe a bit too obsessed. But I don't know, maybe they make people feel happy about themselves.
I personally do not edit any photos that I take because, like, I don't know, it just feels fake. If you post these photos or you show them to other people, they're not really seeing the real you. They're seeing the edited version of you.
What do you want your image to say about you?
It's really up to interpretation. What I want for people to see to see me for who I am. What about you?
I mean, I just want to be pretty. I'm like,
I can't argue with that.
I don't want someone to look at me and be like, oh, she's hideous.
Sasha Polari is a model, makeup artist and campaigner who knows just how much impact a selfie can have.
Can you tell me why you think we take so many selfies?
I think now, and it's definitely progressively getting worse, I think we sort of crave that external validation, and a selfie is a way of getting that instantly.
And so to get that, what we now do is use filters to make ourselves look better.
It's the closest you can get to the beauty ideal, which is obviously completely unachievable and unattainable for anybody. I'm personally very against filters because I think they're so damaging to be able to see how your nose could look slimmer or your lips could look bigger in seconds.
You're an expert on filters, and I have to say, I've never used one. But do you think you could show me?
And then you can see sort of how it distorts.
And it's scary.
Yeah, it's very
It's
scary.
absolutely scary, because I'm still me in this enhanced image. My skin looks smooth and slightly shiny, and then as you go to the real me, there's the mottles and the lines and all these old lady bits by the eyes. What do you think the real basic problem is with this technology? Because you can say, okay, look, it's clever, and I can make my face look a bit different or whatever.
So the mirror that you're passing every day and the mirror that you're looking at every morning is not what you're presenting to the world that's giving you all of this validation. So therefore you're attaching your self-worth on something that just not only isn't true, but you can't possibly achieve that in real life.
You've actually been directly campaigning against filters.
Yeah, so I started a campaign called #FilterDrop in 2020, and that was to encourage people not to rely on filters as much, and specifically not to use them when advertising products and beauty and cosmetics. I eventually, after a while talking about it, encouraged people, if they felt brave enough, to post a filter-free selfie and use the hashtag. So that just grew from 5 to 10 to hundreds to thousands. And it was just phenomenal. I had messages from one woman who said that she found it scarier than giving birth.
So how successful was the campaign?
More successful than I ever imagined. Influencers and models or anybody online aren't allowed to promote skincare and cosmetics and beauty products using a filter, because obviously it's false advertising.
Can we just do one more filter, but can we have a silly one this time?
Yeah.
Oh my, oh my goodness me.
Thinking hard about how you look isn't new, and that's because how we look has always mattered. People have edited their images throughout history. Just look at Queen Elizabeth I. Her paintings show her looking youthful even when her teeth had gone black and her face was wrinkled. She even used to destroy portraits of herself that she didn't like. That's how much they mattered. And these ideas about creating your image go back even further. Meet Augustus. Augustus was the first Roman emperor. 2,000 years ago, he ruled 40 to 50 million people, the length and breadth of the Mediterranean and beyond.
What should the image of a Roman emperor look like? That's a really tricky question, given that there'd never been a Roman emperor before. Get it wrong, and he's not going to remain in power for very long.
Augustus thought hard about his image, but he wouldn't have looked quite like this to the ancient Romans.
We're used to seeing Greek and Roman statues look pale and interesting, like this one. But back in the day, they looked very different. So here, this statue gives you an impression of just how different, complete with paint. So what is this statue trying to do? It's definitely an image of power. One glance and you can see that it's a young, fit man, very much in charge, but also kind of approachable.
Augustus's armor makes him look like a victorious military leader. And the little baby at his feet is actually the god Cupid. And that makes the point that Augustus was supposed to have been descended from Cupid's mother, Venus, the goddess of love.
We have no idea what the flesh and blood Augustus looked like. There weren't any cameras. What I can tell you is that that's not his body. And I know that because the body is copied from a statue that had been really famous in Rome and indeed Greece before that for centuries. That statue, though, had no clothes on. Whoever made this sculpture chose to give it armor. And what that does is it immediately tells us that Augustus is a very modest kind of guy. But it also enhances Augustus's body. If you look carefully, you can see his nipples poking through the metal. You can also see his belly button. It's as though he's wearing a kind of superhero costume that turns him from man into something more than man.
Augustus didn't just think about what his body looked like. His face was his brand too, and his portrait could be seen all over his empire on buildings, cups, jewelry, and on coins, which were the perfect way to spread his portrait far and wide.
So what does he look like? Well, he has a really sturdy neck. He's got really thick, luscious locks of hair. And he's got his eyes on the prize, but somewhere out of shot, out of frame, so we can't quite see what he's looking at. More than that, this little coin here is produced a lot later than this gold one, and yet the heads look virtually identical. He doesn't age, he still looks in the prime of life, and that's his power. So even when he's in his 70s, aging in the palace, he's looking increasingly, seeming increasingly like a god. So coins like this were not just seen, but they were handled by people across the empire, making Augustus the best known person in the whole of the Roman world. It's hard for us to imagine the impact of that today, I think. And in that sense, these coins turn him from a man into an icon. His head becomes the symbol of empire.
Even back in ancient Rome, you had a choice about how your image looked. And not all people used the same filters.
So before Augustus made this beautiful, youthful face an image of power, and even sometimes afterwards, there were Romans out there who preferred to look like this. Now you might think, why on earth would anybody choose to look like this? All wrinkles, jowls, can't they even crack a smile? But even if they looked like this in reality, it's still a choice. It's a filter. And it's a filter that says very loudly that they're a serious-minded, hard-working Roman citizen.
So actually, we don't know what any of these people really look like. The point is that different kinds of images say different things about us. But whatever trouble you went to or how much you paid for your portrait, it didn't mean that it worked. Take this one. Same guy, different material.
Here's Augustus again, but this time he's in bronze. He's larger than life size, and this is just a head, which would once have stood on a colossal bronze body. I've never actually seen him not behind glass before, but it's great to get up really close. What I particularly like about him is that he's still got his original eyes. A lot of classical statues can look very vacant because they've lost their eyes. But here you can really engage with him. You can literally look him in the eye. This is a really top of the range piece.
There were once loads of ancient bronze sculptures, but very few survive today. And the reason why has a lot to do with how they were made. Bronze isn't carved like stone is. Molten bronze is poured into a mold. And it's because you can melt bronze that so few sculptures made from it survive. They've been melted down, recycled, and made into something else. Sometimes something entirely different, like weapons or coins. Some bronze statues only survive now because they were lost in ancient shipwrecks and were rediscovered at the bottom of the sea. Not this one though. So how did it survive?
Seeing him here in the museum, you'd never guess what an eventful life this head has had. The complete statue was made 2,000 years ago, probably in Italy, and it was then taken to Egypt, which was at that time part of the Roman Empire, and put on display as a symbol of the power of Rome. It must have looked pretty impressive, but it was also a bit of a target who didn't much like the Romans. And within a few years, actually, some of Rome's enemies from what's now Sudan had invaded, toppled the statue, cut its head off, and they took the head back to their capital and they buried it in the foundations of one of their temples. It was an absolutely fantastic piece of loot. It was also what preserved the head because it stayed there for 1900 years.
So taking down statues of people we don't like anymore is a very old idea. Just like today, ancient statues could be controversial. Statues of the worst emperors, like this guy Nero, got pulled down, beheaded and chopped to bits, and not just by Rome's enemies, but by the Romans themselves. And sometimes the Romans got imaginative. They might keep the statue's body, but recarve the head to give somebody else their moment in the spotlight.
It's hard not to worry about what we look like on camera. Wish we had better hair, better makeup, better clothes, better lighting. Why do we worry about our image? Because if we get it right, our images can make us. They can do wonders for us. Problem is, once the image is out there, people can abuse it. An image can break us as much as it can make us. So next time you take a selfie or you use a filter, think hard about what you're trying to achieve. Do we give images too much power?